It's time for the Onyx News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the Onyx News Podcast, Margie K.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me this evening. This is another episode of Onyx News, but it is unlike any other because we are launching a brand new association tonight with this broadcast, of course, Friday the 13th. Happy Friday the 13th, everybody. And I thought that it would be probably the most appropriate date for us to do this. But first, I want to tell you to check this book out. We just published this yesterday. Real Fear by Derek Smith. It is a horror fiction novel, and wow, is he a good writer. You're going to love this. It's at Amazon now, so please do check it out. Of course, we've got a lot of other great books over there by Onyx Media and more coming. But tonight, we are going to be discussing a new association that we're launching tonight, and this is for professional paranormal investigators. Now, you might think, why is such a thing needed? Well, we're going to talk about that tonight. But I'm going to read part of a press release so that you can understand what is going on. The Oz Professional Paranormal Investigators Association is a collaborative network of professional paranormal investigation teams and individuals dedicated to establishing industry standards and ensuring public confidence in qualified investigators. Membership requires formal approval before being finalized. Members receive several benefits, including discounted access to certification programs and workshops, rights to use the official logo, a monthly newsletter subscription, which is digital, and digital access to the bi-monthly, which is now going monthly again this month, Onyx Magazine. We're developing an extensive certification program in the coming months, offering specializations in paranormal investigation, cryptid investigation, and remote viewing, with additional certifications planned for later phases. We believe that this association addresses a significant gap currently existing within the field. So early registrants joining by today receive a complimentary 3-month trial membership. So be sure to go to the website that I'm going to post here in a little bit and get your free trial membership if you'd like. And after that, the pricing is set at $199 for teams up to 5 members, additional team members at $49 and $49 for individual memberships per year. And we also have an associate membership for persons who are not investigators, but they like the subject matter. And that is $29 per year. And now I am going to bring our expert team of investigators on. And welcome, everybody.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining me this evening. We this group of people are known experts in paranormal investigating. They have their specialties, as I do. Mine is remote viewing and psychic work. And everybody else has their own specialties and interests. And we're going to talk about that tonight. But first of all, I'd like to just kind of get your opinions on, is an association like this needed? Is it necessary? So let's start with Dan Terry.
I had a call once of a lady who thought she had a demon in her house, of course, and we got there, and there was nothing. Everything was fine. She had some emotional problems, and she had another group come in, and then another group. The third group found demons all over the place. They weren't there. They were telling her what she wanted to hear. And that's why you need something like this. These groups that would not be part of this or part of a similar group very likely are people who don't know what they're doing and are there for ulterior motives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. That's a problem. That is an ongoing problem. Dan Metelsky, how about you?
Yeah, no, I want to
I think,
kind of piggyback off of that because, can you hear me?
yeah.
Okay, so I want to piggyback off that a little bit. Paranormal investigation has changed over the last handful of years because of TV, right? There's been so many shows on TV, and the stuff that they are going for, the way they are doing investigations on these channels, are reckless and very disrespectful towards the spirits that these people are trying to interact with. And of course, they're doing it for views, right? Which is all of the wrong reasons to go and do an investigation, right? These people that we talk to they were once human.
Mm-hmm.
These things should be treated with the respect, any living person would have. And when you don't carry that level of respect, you're welcoming things into life that could be very dangerous to the people that are there, as well as the people in their families when they get home.
Yeah, agreed. Michelle, how about you?
Well, I guess I'm going to piggyback off everyone. It's the truth because, when we're saying we're trying to find out, is there an afterlife? There were stories prior, and people are getting honed in, just like when you watch on TV, because they went to that asylum and it opened up in 1882. People don't understand that there were people prior to that. And so what they do is dismiss certain things. And if that comes through, of course, everything's demons. Everything's demons. And I get a lot of those phone calls. And trying to make sure that we educate these teams, because when we talk about people getting possessed, we're talking a fine line of mental illness on top of that. And when you start bringing tons and tons of people in, now we're messing with somebody's livelihood, their family and stuff. And, we really got to start looking past that, outside of the box. And we're not. We're staying in this paranormal box with, I want to be on TV, 5 minutes of fame. And it's actually causing more trouble than helping anybody.
Yeah, I agree. Not to mention things that they fake for
Oh.
TV shows.
Yeah.
I've caught them doing that several times with projects I was working on, or they just out and out lie and make something up. And then they excuse it by saying it's for entertainment purposes. But that's not what we're about. Paul, Dale Roberts, what do you think?
Well, Halo Paranormal Investigations, which is my group, we've had at least about 75 members. And with those 75 members, we trained them in a very unique way. And we did a lot of demonic cases. And yes, some of those demonic cases are mental. But what we do is we do a Roman Catholic house blessing. Now, if they're a different religion, we had 13 members that had different religions: Greek Orthodox, Christian, Miwok Indians, and they did their own type of cleansing. So we would accommodate that client with their religion.
Mm-hmm.
And what we would look for, like it with orbs, could be almost anything. It could be lint, it could be dust, dewdrops, light refractions, etc., etc. But if you can show intelligent movement with that orb, you can deem that as paranormal. And a case example is we had a case where Emily the ghost would drain the energy from the occupants. And one of my investigators says, Paul, I feel drained. I feel fatigued. I feel like I'm ready to pass out. And I said, I wonder if Emily's doing that to you. I said, Emily, if you're listening to me, kiss him on the lips. 3 of us take a picture and we get an orb on his mouth. That showed intelligent movement. Then I said, Emily, if you're listening to me again, sit on his lap. We take a picture, and there's an orb hovering over his lap. That's what we look for. Sure, we have all the devices, connect, and all that other stuff. But if we can show orb has intelligent movement, and what I do is I go to a house, I said, if this house is really haunted, if there's a ghost in here, appear by my hand. And I'll place my hand by the wall. And sure enough, if that house is haunted, I have an orb in my hand. And then after EV, electronic voice phenomenon, what we do is we do a sweep, an EVP sweep around the house. And I do something real quick. I say, is there anyone here? Let me know. And I give it time to talk, and I play it back right there. And sometimes you'll have something saying, I'm right here. Hello. There we go. So also, too, we look for designer orbs, and those are the type of orbs that have intricate type designs. And there was this house where I took a picture. We got 2 designer orbs, and I looked at it, and I called one of my investigators. I said, what do you see here? She goes, I see dog faces. We went back to the occupant. I go, what is it you have in your backyard? She goes, oh, I have orange trees. I said, besides that, what else is back there? She goes, my 2 dogs are buried back there. I said, really? I said, take a look at these pictures. And then she starts crying. I said, why are you crying? She goes, those are my 2 dogs. Something like that I was able to deem as paranormal. And that's kind of how we work things. That's how we do things.
Okay. Carl Harper, why do you think we need an organization like this?
Technology has really progressed. I remember, I'm so old, that when you wanted a service, you went to the phone book and looked it up. And the services that weren't legit or weren't very good weren't in the upcoming phone book. And now in the age of scams and spam, having an association that can verify a service, I think is definitely beneficial, because so many, and I include myself, so many of us get scammed and spammed every day that it's hard to separate the real from the fake.
Mm-hmm.
And that's becoming more difficult now with AI.
Oh yeah.
Right. And I know that's something that we contend with online. When we put true evidence up, everyone's claiming that it's AI. Right. So it's hard. It's getting more difficult to kind of separate the fakers from the people that do things the right way anymore.
Yeah, that is a problem across the board for all of us in improving this sort of thing, because anything can be created with AI now. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to figure some things out as far as that's concerned. I mean, that's probably one of the things we're going to have to be doing. Everybody, this is a new association. Everything is brand new. This group of people, this is the first time we've actually gotten together all together at the same time. And this is the founding membership group and the advisory board, basically. We'll probably be adding to that later. But basically, one of the things we're going to do is create courses for people to take on demand online. So people involved, like my assistant, who's also a writer, and she helped write the book. She's a co-author of this book, How to Research a Haunted House. Violet Wisdom is right now putting together a course for this group, and the book is going to be required reading. So that's going to be the textbook, and it's going to let people know how to dig in and do research on a haunted house, and that to help people find out who is doing the haunting and why they're doing the haunting. You get a lot of clues, but that information is just not readily available. It's generally, for somebody like her, who she is a historic home researcher, and she's written over 50 books. So she knows her stuff. That's going to be one of the classes. And so I'm just going to go around and ask everybody here if they have an idea for a class, or if they want to see some classes that are created. So let's start with Dan Terry again.
Oh, I think dowsing rods. That's of course my forte, and a little bit on the Ouija boards. I'm not like so many others scared of the Ouija board. It works if you know how to operate it. And using a Ouija board is like using a revolver or a semi-automatic pistol. It's a perfectly safe tool if you know what you're doing. And if you don't, it's a tragedy looking for a place to happen. And I think talking about those two topics would be really good.
Very good. Very good. I think that's good. How about you, Derek?
Well, so the whole reason for an association like this is for standardization. You think paranormal right now, it's still technically considered a pseudoscience, right? And why is that? Because there's no standards. There's no repeatability. There's nothing that says, look, here's a step-by-step instruction of how to get this to work properly. And this is how we can regulate things. One thing that I've been working on during our 10 plus years of investigating with Iron City Paranormal is heavily researching places, locations, people, land, anything. And I think that one of the topics should be similar to what you're talking about with your book is proper ways to research, proper outlets to do that. And then on top of that, just kind of standardizing these things. A keyword that I've been using recently in our investigations as a team is PRIME. It's the PRIME method. And it's something I'd like to share with everybody kind of at some point in time. But it's preparation that really comes first. And you piggyback off of that, and you can actually create a standardization from repeatability to controlled situations to documentation. All of these things add up to creating more of a scientific method about going about the paranormal.
Sounds great. How about you, Michelle?
Well, I kind of want to bring everybody more into there is a dark side of the paranormal. I have been to a lot of investigations where they think every spirit in that location is, unicorns and puppy dogs. And that's not the case, because if you look like, Derek and them have said, when you're doing your research, when we're talking asylums, these people, what they went through. So just because the energy could be negative because of how they were treated and stuff, and it more and more, it's like, oh, there is nothing dark here. There's nothing bad here. Well, there is. And it's how do you navigate between the two, because just because you have one entity that sits and, communicates with you a lot doesn't always mean it's a good one. And we have to prepare people to understand some of that and how to protect themselves when they're in those situations. Because some of these locations, they're getting bombarded and people just drop off a lot of baggage at that point. Now you even have more to deal with. And so we got to kind of look at that darker side. It's always been like a taboo. And because I work with a lot of the darker cases, I think that needs to be part of a lot of this too.
Oh, absolutely. That is a critical part. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you put together, Michelle. Paul Dale Roberts, how about you?
It's kind of funny because I worked with Ghost Adventures on 9 episodes. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you a lot of the stuff is made up because it's TV. What we do, my group, Halo Paranormal Investigations, if someone has a demonic attachment, I actually provide them with a full submersion baptism, and I'll do it right in their bathtub. And that is a basic form of exorcism. And no ghost hunting group that I've known of does that. We're the only group that does that. Nobody else baptizes. No one else provides Roman Catholic house blessings. And also, too, if a demonic case is something mental, it's a good placebo effect. And a lot of times the client will, if they even have a mental problem, they'll say, hey, Paul, your Roman Catholic house blessing worked. The demons are out of my house. People with attachments, the same thing. I get a lot of success stories from it. Unless they do something bad and they go back into the dark arts and the demon reappears.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes that happens. As for a schooling to be a professional ghost hunter, I worked with Nancy Bradley, celebrity psychic. And she had classes. She had ghost hunting classes. She gave a pretty little certificate saying that so-and-so is now a professional ghost hunter. There was just so many ghost hunting groups out there that they looked at the Nancy Bradley thing and they just kind of chuckled and laughed. It didn't really work, but I don't know. I mean, perhaps this will work, but I've kind of seen it already.
Okay. Dan Metelsky.
So obviously when people were first starting to get into investigations, I think that I know that we would have benefited from a rundown of equipment. How does it work? You know, when equipment does something, what is it actually doing? Right? Like, what is it reading? Like REM pods, what are they picking up? You know, what are the theories behind the equipment? What are also trap points, so to speak, with that equipment, right? Because we as investigators need to parse out, you know, environmental impact, contamination, and true paranormal interaction. So I think that I think there would be a very good need for like a basics of paranormal investigation, you know, rundown of equipment, how it works, and the theory behind it. I think that would be great to start with.
I think so too.
Absolutely.
It's on the list. Carl.
I agree with Michelle in that there's some bad stuff out there. Speaking from experience, you, Margie and Michelle, you know, something followed me home. So I think we need to train on how to protect yourself. And again, backing up Dan, I think the use of equipment, I've spent a lot of money on equipment. I don't know how to use it. And then falling back on 40 years of law enforcement, I think the interview is one of the most important things that needs to be taught.
Yes.
How do you do an interview without leading the people, getting the right information, even having the right list of questions, maybe a standardization. I used to run lie detector tests, and you could really mess up an interview if you don't ask the proper questions. Kind of, you know, back on the law enforcement side, did you steal the gold watch and the $1,000 out of the safe? Well, your suspect stole the gold watch, but he didn't steal the $1,000. So when he answers yes, you eliminate him from being a crook, but he was. So the interview, how to use equipment and protecting yourself would be my inputs.
And Carl has already started putting together a manual for us, guys.
Nice.
I mean, overnight he did that. Do you have that handy, Carl? Could you read that first, the mission statement that you made up that I think is really good? We'll give you a minute to find that. We can come back to that. I think what we need to do now is just take a real quick break, and we'll come back talking more about the new Oz Professional Paranormal Investigators Association. We'll be back right after this.
Behind every ghost story and creature feature lies a far more terrifying truth. The real monsters wear human faces. In the chilling book, All Monsters Are Human, from Derek Smith, 10 Twisted Tales expose the darkest parts of the human soul. From killers hiding in plain sight to obsessions turned deadly. Each story story invites you to step into a shadowed world where morality unravels, and the only thing more terrifying than what lurks in the dark is who. These aren't just horror stories. They're reflections of ourselves, showing what happens when fear, rage, guilt, and desire take control. Visit nxmedia.com for more information on All Monsters Are Human from Derek Smith. And you can purchase them at amazon.com from nxmedia.com. The truth, it's out there, and it's waiting for you. The Unexplained Network is your source for the best in paranormal programming, live video streaming, and audio streaming from hauntings, UFOs, Bigfoot, cryptids, and the ever-expanding realm of the unexplained. Listen live or on demand now on Spreaker, Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeart, and Pockets all over the World Wide Web. The Unexplained Network, where unexplained lives.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Margie Kame, your host for this evening, with a crack team of investigators this evening talking about the new Oz Paranormal Investigators Association. And yeah, we're rocking and rolling. We've got 7 workshops already planned just tonight, right? Now, one of the certifications is remote viewing certification. And since I already had completed that a long time ago, that is up. So that's ready to go. We've got 1 certification done. Now we're going to do paranormal investigator, and then we'll do cryptid investigator later. So the idea basically is to create a place where people can go to get good information. They can take courses. If they want to have a certification, they can get a certification. They can be an approved team. So part of this is creating teams around the world where we can refer people. So we want to be the place where people come for help, and then we can refer a paranormal investigation team who has been approved by us, and also create certification. So if they're a certified team, that will give people more confidence. They'll know that they're going to somebody who is a pro at what they do, and they respect them, respect their property, do it the right way, and everybody is on board. And I think, years ago, 15 years ago, I was at a paranormal conference in Springfield, Missouri. And I was there as the UFO person, because I do that too. And the thing that I was hearing from cryptid investigators and paranormal investigators was there's no place to go to get all of those subjects taken care of. If somebody's got one thing, they usually have something else happening too. And so I would just like to ask everybody here tonight. But first, Carl, did you find that statement that we were talking about? You want to go ahead and read that real quick?
Oz Paranormal Investigation Group is dedicated to the objective, respectful, and ethical investigation of unexplained phenomena. Our goal is to provide support to individuals experiencing paranormal events, to document and analyze such occurrences using sound methods, and to educate the public about our findings. We operate with integrity, open-mindedness, and a commitment to the truth, wherever it leads.
I think that sounds perfect. What do you guys think?
That's great.
Couldn't have said it better ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. You're hired, Carl. So I just like to ask everybody, how do you feel about, you're doing paranormal investigations, but there's something else too. There's a cryptid sighting, there's a UFO sighting, there's a portal, something like that going on. Have you run into cases like that? And do you think it is important to know about these other things? So I'll just, whoever wants to go, just take it away.
I'll take it over here. I did Mount Shasta, and Mount Shasta is known for everything. You got Bigfoot. You even have Bat Squatch back in 2009. You had the last of the Lemurians that supposedly live underneath the mountain. You have UFOs going in and out of the mountain. So you got UFOs, you got cryptids, and you got ghosts. You got all kinds of ghosts because they had massacres out there. So yeah, I believe that, well, myself, I'm a 14 investigator. That means I investigate all things paranormal.
Mhm.
And I do believe that it all connects.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Michelle, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I am lucky enough to know some of you. And so when I do run into something like that, I actually have where I can reach out and say, who would you recommend? How can we put this, person together with this family? So, but you think about it, there's a lot of them out there that doesn't. And so to be able to kind of put all of it together and have some knowledge of all of it, to at least know we can guide them in the right direction, I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have any comments on that?
I think, Margie, you need to bring up North Farm.
Bring up
North
Sorry?
Farm. North Farm.
North Farm?
Uh-huh.
Well, okay. Yeah, that's a case where this lady had multiple UFO sightings and photographic evidence on the security cameras of UFOs in her yard, balls of light, a 50-foot tall monster, an 8-foot tall Bigfoot, you name it, was going on there. And it's probably still going on there, but we can't investigate anymore because it has now changed hands. He's no longer there. But Carl, being an ex-sheriff, knows everybody, and he contacted the local law enforcement. And sure enough, they were very well aware of that particular location, which is in the middle of nowhere, north of Kansas City, some distance. And yeah, there are just places like that, including the main thing about this is that she got a picture of a portal opening that looked like a tornado. It was transparent, it was kind of a reddish color, it's just swirling and swirling and swirling, and it was right across the street from her location on another person's property. So yeah, that's
It-
one call.
If you had a checklist, there was fairies, orbs, ghosts, Bigfoot, Mothman, UFOs, the portal. The only thing that was missing from the bingo card was cattle mutilation. And the next day after we quit investigating, the neighbor brought in a truckload of cattle. So I kept waiting for that phone call.
And we're still waiting, but yeah. All right. So moving forward, what other courses do you think are important? Other subject matter that we could throw into this mix that investigators want to hear about? And also, we want to hear from the public on this too. You can, get your 3-month membership, send in your ideas. We want to hear them. You can send them in by email. And I will be dropping this information up here in just a minute. But the website is ozinstitute.org. That's got everything on it that you want to know. And yeah, we want to hear your ideas too. But are there any others from this group tonight? Anything we're missing?
Well, like with my team, I have people who are specialists in certain things. We had a person who is forensic photography. And so anytime I got any kind of weird pictures, instead of me spending hours looking at it and trying to figure it out, I would just hand it over to her and she would actually dissect it. And then she'd write this long email explaining what that photograph was. If it was fake, if it was something by accident, or if it was real.
That's an excellent point, and Carl and I know the man for the job. Larry. We'll be giving Larry a call to join us. I know he will.
Some-
All right.
something that sets ghost hunters apart from investigators, to me, is the scientific method, and we need to get away from, the word pseudoscience as it pertains to paranormal investigation, and we need to make it a science, right? Because we can apply science and the structure of science and the scientific method to what we do every day, right? When we're in the field, so to speak. So I think a course just about like this, employing the scientific method into a ghost investigation would be a great foundational piece.
How about a bachelor's degree in paranormal science?
It'd be great.
There we go.
That would be a lofty goal,
That would
but
be
I
great.
think we could create it.
I would have done that over engineering school.
Like people who watch Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, and then people who watch Ghost Adventures. Well,
Mhm.
if you look at Reddit, Ghost Adventures is a joke. It's a joke. And Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, I mean, they're using science, real science, to try to figure things out. That's the direction that we need to go.
Yep.
Towards science.
Mhm.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Absolutely. Dan, Terry, what do you think?
Years ago, and it's a little different, but I got called in to assist on a investigation because the team that was doing it had another one that popped up the same night. So they asked me to help these guys out, which I did. They told me what was going on about the murder that occurred there and how it happened. We made contact with that spirit. And the more I talked about what happened, the madder it got. And there was a curtain of darkness came down between us and the next room. We could hear things being thrown, and then it shot through out the door. When I went and did my own research, I found out I was completely misled. And I was upsetting him because it wasn't nothing like what really happened when he was murdered. The history is so important, and to get Violet in there and others to show how to research this. I had to go find newspapers, and then they were in German, so I had to get them translated. But that's the way to start. You got to have the right story, or it's just going to make things worse.
Mm-hmm. Derek?
I mean, to Dan's point, there are so many times where we will see a well-known location and the story about it. Everybody knows the story about it. But the locations that have hit us closer, have meant more to us, are the lesser known locations. Those where residences are contacting us and saying, what's going on here? Or, having some of these just not necessarily investigated, but these places that have stories about them. All they are myths and legends, and nothing's been documented. And without any of this documentation, proper ways of documenting it, scientifically, even step by step, everything, it can just be a ghost story, right? There's nothing more to it. So I think a way on adding to that research and scientific level, proper foundations of documenting things, which is really a big part, Margie, of us getting with UNX magazine to document our findings and everything. And people talk para-unity all the time, right? So much so that it becomes a joke because it's not real. It needs to be, it should be, but it's not. Everyone's out for themselves. Take what we do and build off of it. The next team in, build off of it. And we do the same thing. We reach out to groups who have been into locations before. Tell us about what you have experienced. So just bringing all of these things together, kind of start to bottom. How do you research? How do you prep? How do you communicate? Putting these things in order and doing it respectfully, doing it properly, and repeatedly. I think some kind of methodology needs to be created for this.
Hmm.
You know, comparing to the UFO side, there's websites you go to make your report. I wonder
That's
if
right.
at some point we would have the capability to have a website where people can go make the reports and then it gets sent out to the nearest group or
There
to
are a few that
investigate.
I've seen before, but most of the time it's just people telling stories. There's no actual foundation to them. It's just, I heard this about this place. Um, I think it's a great idea creating some kind of live map where you can kind of put a pin on it. So wherever you are in the country, the world even, you know of these locations. You know the real history about it. You know how the paranormal ties into that history. Um, and even a contact person if you wanted to go and talk to somebody there or investigate for yourself. Putting together a library, Carl, I think that would be a phenomenal idea.
Hmm.
And it wouldn't have duplication, or you could do your research if you get the same report.
That's a great idea. I think this could quickly become a monster.
It hasn't already.
Well, yeah, it kind of has. I do want to show everybody our logo for the association. Anyway, that's their working logo. We might come up with something different later. But now there's also the opportunity we mentioned earlier to have individual groups, teams in different cities who are approved by us, and we will refer people to them. But the first official Oz group is in Kansas City, and Carl made this logo for us. We've got 6 or 7 team members right now that we are actually launching tomorrow. We're doing our first meeting tomorrow and introducing everybody to the group. And what we're going to do is hold monthly or bi-monthly meetings, and we're going to tell everybody about our investigations, what we have found, and then also have guest speakers come in by Wi-Fi. So we meet at a restaurant. We meet at Johnny's Tavern, where we've been meeting with MUFON for a long time. And it's kind of the same group of people, but we can't talk about anything other than UFOs with MUFON. So, we've got this whole separate deal here, and that covers basically everything. And so we've got that going. I'd just like to go around then and let everybody talk a little bit about some difficult case you worked on that it was really hard to figure out what was going on at that site, where the people were very disturbed by it, and maybe you did or did not come to a resolution at the end of it. So if you can think of a case like that, let's just go around and talk about that. Dan Terry, do you have anything off the top of your head?
Well, I had hard to pick one, but I do want to say real quick here. I know it's not quite what you're looking for, but I've worked with Michelle, and of course, Margie, I've worked with you, and I got to work with. Well, I didn't work with them so much as I was there with Iron City Paranormal at the Blennerhaus a few years ago. And I think I even wrote an article for the magazine about how professional and how outstandingly well this team operated in the Blennerhaus. You've picked some really amazing guys right here. I'm kind of shouldn't even be in with this group.
Oh,
so
yes, you should.
They're awesome. Carl and Paul, I don't know those guys yet, but everyone else here I've seen, and they are top notch.
We appreciate that, Dan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dan.
It means a lot.
The one I was telling you about would be the one I'd have to bring up, in that I got the wrong information. They called me the day before. Filled me in. I go in the next evening. I got the wrong information. The ghost would not talk to us after that again. I mean, the whole night was shot after that, just because I had the wrong information. And I just can't push that. Before you start even discussing things with the spirit, other than the basics of, how are you? Is it hot where you're at? The best thing to do is get the information.
All right. Good deal. Derek Smith, what do you think?
So I think one that really sticks out in my mind, and Dan, feel free
Yeah.
chime in with this one. It's actually one that's local here to us. It was one of our first residences who reached out and talking. I mean, before we even got in there, a group, Paranormal Quest, actually from West Virginia, they had a woman contact them, and they said, we can't make it up there. We can't really do anything. And we worked with them before. And to your point of, reaching out to others locally, this was a perfect case of that. And so we were actually close by. We went in, we spoke with the woman. We did multiple video calls with her first to make sure that, something is actually going on and you're not just, someone off the loony bus here. No more than any of us are. But we got in there and you could tell that there was something off. And the more we got into it, it took a while. And, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but it took a lot of time for us to finally get something going there. But once we did, we were able to find out, just walking through her location, that her bedroom was the hot spot of this place. And the reason why is because there was a mirror on every single wall. And she was opening this bedroom up from every side.
With her bed right in the middle. There was
Right. It was
mirrors
the
on both
epicenter.
sides, one at the head of the bed, one at the foot of the bed. It was just unnerving to walk into that space, right?
First thing we said is cover those up. That was the first step. And we've been back there how many times, Dan? 3 times?
Yeah, so and that's what made that case so difficult. Was we had a lot of success very early on teaching her, because it's a lot of, what we had to do was get her to understand, because she herself was psychic or had a mediumship to her or something, right?
Well, something she didn't understand, and she was pulling all of this energy in without knowing it.
Correct. And we were leaving her with tools and equipment, like prayers to say, and, crystals to use for protection and different things that she herself has to maintain. We asked her to maintain that shield because she kept bringing it in. We would leave, and then she would start doubting herself. She would watch, crime shows and things that would pollute her head, and she would just sit in her bedroom all nights of the hours of the night. So she was bringing all of this energy into the home, and she took all of the things that we gave her and told us why it didn't work and stopped using it. Well, then she kept bringing it back in. So after a while, we had to, respectfully tell her, like, if you're not going to follow what we're leaving with you, there's really not much we can do. We can make it okay for a day or two, but if it keeps coming, if you keep welcoming it back in, it's going to keep coming back in. So that one was a difficult one. And we eventually stopped hearing from her. So I don't know if, last we heard everything was going well, but we really don't know where that one's at. And it's just something that's stuck with me,
Well, unfortunately, that happens too often, where the person is actually creating the phenomena themselves. Paul, what do you think?
Well, I've had a lot of difficult cases, especially my demonic cases. One case, the person was a hoarder, and the demon was telling him to hoard. And it was a total mess. So mess. I mean, they even took out the toilets out of the bathroom, and they were doing everything they need to do in the garage. That's how disgusting it was. That was one. Another one, I was actually chased out of the house with a woman with a baseball bat. So, I've had some strange demonic cases. And that's why my investigators gave me the nickname the Demon Warrior. So
Okay.
that's how I became a warrior.
Oh,
But I'm going to tell Carl, I used to be in the Army for about 12 years, and I worked with the drug suppression team. I was an undercover MP in Germany. So we always look for statements that were consistent. So when we interview somebody, the interview process is very, very important. And like when I do an investigation, that's the first thing I do. I interviewed the occupant. And sometimes they get messed up because they're telling a lie. Okay, they said, okay, the demon showed up at 3 a.m. Later on, I go back to it, and the demon showed up at 10 p.m. So which one was it? So yeah, the interview process is very, very important. As soon as I see that there's something that's not consistent, I know it's probably made up. So yeah, I've had some interesting cases. I could probably talk for 3 days about all the different cases I've had.
Yeah, I'll bet Michelle can too. What do you say, Michelle?
Well, I don't have a cool nickname yet, so I'm going to have to work on one. But actually, I get called in a lot from the churches and stuff because I do work with them on demonic possessions and things like that. A little bit around, because of being a physical medium, able to draw things in to see, and they kind of want to know what it is. The hardest thing I think I've ever had to learn is just kind of like what Dan and Derek were saying, knowing when to walk away. Because I think, when we're doing this kind of work, you want to fix everything. Mm-hmm. And so there was struggles with that for myself. Because when you start working and getting really into these cases and you're working with the church and, you're working with the bishops and stuff, you feel like you have to have answers. And my toughest case was, and I didn't realize this person ended up having like 5-6 other people trying to help. As we were trying to help, we end up losing that person. And that was like one of the hardest things I have ever dealt with. It's still kind of a nightmare for me, knowing that no matter what we did, it wasn't going to change the outcome. But how do you deal with that? And that's why like I said, this is going to be so important, not just with the scientific stuff, but we're dealing on certain levels. And how do we teach a lot of these groups and stuff, just like you guys did, knowing when you cannot help anymore. Mm-hmm. And to get that phone call from the children of this lovely lady saying that she took her own life because she couldn't fight the demons anymore. Sorry, it's hardcore. And that's why it's so important that we get these messages out, because Paul said it, you get placebo effects on things. But when you start really working and you start bringing stuff like that in, and you don't know and you can't control it, just like the lady with the mirrors, you don't know what's coming in and out. I mean, that is your portal. Mm-hmm. You have to start really learning, you're not a superhero, and you got to know when to walk away or when to say, hey, I need to bring other people in, because your ego is not going to help these people.
It's really hard to do because you start caring. You start spending time with these people, getting to know them. You spend hours upon hours with them. And it's really hard to do that because you really do care and you really do want to help out.
And it's difficult. And, one thing, you're trying to navigate, and you're trying to make sure they're at peace, not realizing it's, disrupting your own peace. And then now it's become personal, because now it's not even about that person anymore. It's about what you're fighting. And then you're like trying to go, okay, and so it gets pretty hard. Like I said, losing her was a really tough thing, even though we knew the outcome was going to always be the same, no matter who jumped in, because that's how far she was from it.
I think that's one of the reasons that I think this group is necessary. I got a case through MUFON and made contact with a retired elderly gentleman that lived alone at the time out in the middle of nowhere. And as I'm interviewing him, it turns out there was no UFO, UAP activity. It was paranormal. And we kept talking, and he talked. I learned that his family had been abused, that he was being attacked at night. He went to psychiatrists, doctors, and And he had been attacked so much, he put game cameras in his house and actually caught entities on these game cameras. Well, MUFON, of course, you can't do anything with it. And not being able to help him was frustrating. I agree with you, Michelle, that you get friendly with the people and you want to help. But this guy had photographic proof that something was bothering him and he couldn't get help.
Yeah. All good points, everybody. I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. Please hang in. Don't leave after I end the show. Otherwise, we will have no show. Stay. So hang in there. Thank you so much for joining me. This is the launch of the Oz Professional Paranormal Investigators Association, and I hope you will check us out, join us, and let's get this thing rolling. Thanks, everybody.